My daughter-in-law controlled my $10,000 pension while I starved. Then my daughter found out what she did. I'm Dorothy Lanier. People call me Dot. I'm 64 years old, and I never thought my own son would let me go hungry. 3 months ago, I weighed myself on the old scale in my bathroom. 106 pounds. I used to be 130. My hands shook as I stepped off. The number didn't make sense. None of it made sense anymore. I worked 30 years as a hotel housekeeper in Raleigh, North Carolina. 30 years of scrubbing toilets, changing sheets, hauling trash bags twice my size. My knees are shot. My fingers don't straighten all the way anymore. But I did it. I raised 2 kids alone after my husband died, and I saved every penny I could. $10,000. That's what I had when I retired. Not much, but it was mine. Until I signed it away. I thought I was being smart. My son Terrence said his wife Nia worked in finance. She knew how to protect money, keep it safe. I trusted them. Why wouldn't I? He's my son. But trust is a dangerous thing when you're old and tired and you just want someone else to carry the weight for a while. The first time I opened my refrigerator and found nothing but a bruised apple and half a jar of peanut butter, I told myself it was temporary, a mistake. The second time, I cried. The third time, I stopped counting. I don't know when I became invisible in my own life. Maybe it happened slowly, one unpaid bill at a time, one dismissive look, one unanswered phone call. All I know is this. I was dying in my own house and nobody noticed. Nobody except my daughter Marilyn. And when she found out what her brother and his wife had done to me, she didn't just get angry, she went to war.
Let me tell you what it's like to ask permission to eat. Not from a hospital, not from a nursing home, from your own daughter-in-law, in your own house, with your own money sitting in an account you can't touch anymore. It started with small things. A text to Terrence asking if I could order groceries. A phone call to Nia wondering why the electric bill came back marked past due when I knew I'd given the money for it months ago. She'd sigh like I was bothering her during something important. Then she'd say she'd look into it. But nothing ever got looked into. The lights went out on a Tuesday. I sat in the dark for 2 hours before Terrence finally answered his phone. He promised he'd take care of it. The power came back on 3 days later. No explanation, no apology, just a text that said, fixed. The water was next. Then the internet, which meant I couldn't video call Marilyn anymore. Couldn't see my grandbabies. Couldn't hear my daughter's voice unless she happened to call the landline, which she rarely did because she thought I had my cell. I did have my cell, but Terrence changed my plan without asking, said it was cheaper this way. Cheaper meant I couldn't call long distance. Cheaper meant I was cut off. I started losing weight around the same time the food ran out. Not all at once, just slowly. 1 week I'd open the cabinets and find them a little emptier than before. The next week, emptier still. I asked Terrence to bring groceries. He said, "Ma, you gotta learn to budget better." Budget better? Me! The woman who stretched $1 so thin you could see through it just to keep him and his sister fed when they were growing up. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Okay, baby." Because that's what you do. When you love someone, you swallow your pride. You tell yourself it'll get better. You make excuses for them even when they're hurting you. But hunger doesn't care about excuses. I remember the day I realized I was in trouble. Real trouble. I stood in my kitchen, staring at an empty shelf where the bread used to be, and my legs just gave out. I caught myself on the counter, but barely. My head felt light, my hands were shaking. I hadn't eaten anything but crackers in 2 days. That's when I tried to call Marilyn. The phone rang once. Then a recorded message, "This number cannot be reached from your current plan." I stood there, holding the receiver, listening to that cold, mechanical voice, And I understood. I was alone. And what Nia did next nearly cost me my life.
I need to take you back so you understand how I got here. My husband, James, died when he was 46. Stroke. Massive. The kind that takes you before the ambulance even arrives. Terrence was 12. Marilyn was 9. One minute, I had a partner. The next, I was a widow, with 2 children and a stack of bills I didn't know how to pay. So I did what I had to do. I worked. I took a job at the Raleigh Grand Hotel cleaning rooms. 6 days a week. 8-hour shifts that turned into 10 when someone called out. My back ached, my knees swelled, but every Friday I'd cash my check and know my babies had what they needed. Terrence was my easy child. Quiet, respectful, never caused trouble. He did his homework without being asked, helped around the house, looked after his little sister when I worked late. I thought I'd done something right with him. Marilyn, though, Lord, that girl, strong-headed from the day she was born. She questioned everything, challenged everyone, and never let anybody push her around. Teachers said she had an attitude. I said she had a backbone. The 2 of them were different as night and day, but they loved each other, and they loved me. Or so I thought. When Terrence met Nia, I wanted to like her. I really did. She was polished, educated, worked at some financial firm downtown, and wore those sharp suits that made her look like she belonged in a magazine. She smiled when she met me, shook my hand, said all the right things. But there was something in her eyes, something cold. Whenever I talked, she'd nod, but her gaze would drift. Whenever I needed help lifting something or reaching a high shelf, she'd glance at her nails and say, "I just got these done." Small things, easy to ignore, except they weren't small. At their wedding, she didn't ask me to sit in the front row. She put me 3 rows back, next to some cousins I'd never met. Marilyn noticed. She grabbed my hand and whispered, "You okay, Mama?" I smiled and said I was fine. I wasn't. But I told myself it didn't matter. Terrence was happy. That's all I cared about. The years went by. My arthritis got worse. Climbing stairs became torture. Some mornings, I couldn't even grip a coffee mug without pain shooting through my fingers. My doctor said I needed to slow down, maybe think about getting help around the house. I didn't want to be a burden. So when Terrence and Nia offered to help manage my pension, I thought it was a blessing. I had $10,000 saved. Not a fortune, just enough to fix my roof, see a specialist for my joints, maybe take a little trip someday. Simple dreams for a simple woman. Nia said she could invest it, protect it, make sure I was financially secure. I should have known better. But I was tired, so tired, and I wanted to believe my son's wife cared about me. That belief almost killed me.
It was July, the kind of hot, sticky July that makes you feel like you're breathing through a wet towel. Terrence and Nia came over on a Sunday afternoon. I made iced tea and set out some cookies I'd baked the day before. Nia didn't touch them. We sat in my living room, the fan rattling in the corner, and Terrence cleared his throat like he was about to give a speech. "Ma," he said, "we've been talking." Nia leaned forward, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "Miss Dorothy, have you thought about what would happen if someone got access to your accounts? Fraud is everywhere now, especially targeting seniors." Seniors. The way she said it made me feel ancient. I frowned. "I'm careful with my information."
I'm sure you are, she said smoothly, but you can't be too careful. That's why Terrence and I think it would be better if we managed your pension fund, just to keep it safe. I looked at my son. His face was earnest, worried even. You really think that's necessary? I asked. Ma, we just want to help, he said. You've worked too hard for that money. Let us protect it. Protect it. Those words should have been a warning. But I was raised to trust family, to believe that blood meant loyalty. So when Nia slid the paperwork across my coffee table, I hesitated only a moment before I picked up the pen. This just gives us access to help with bills and expenses, she explained. You'll still have full control. We're just here to make things easier. I signed. 3 pages. My name in shaky handwriting at the bottom of each one. Nia smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Perfect, she said, gathering the papers quickly. I'll keep these somewhere safe. Can I have a copy? I asked. She paused, just for a second. Then she waved her hand dismissively. Of course, I'll make copies and bring them by next week. She never did. The first month, everything seemed normal. Bills got paid. I got a statement in the mail showing my account balance. $10,000, just like it should be. But then the second month came. I got a notice from the electric company saying my payment was late. I called Terrence. Oh, Ma, don't worry. She's reorganizing your expenses. She's setting up auto pay for everything. It'll be fine. It wasn't fine. The third month, my water bill showed up with a red stamp. Final notice. I called again. This time, Nia answered. Miss Dorothy, you have to understand, we're putting you on a budget. You were spending too much. Too much? On what? Water to bathe? Electricity to see at night? I don't understand. I gave you access to help, not to... We are helping. You just need to trust the process. Trust the process. As if I was a child being scolded for not understanding math homework. I hung up feeling smaller than I had in years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the papers I'd signed, about Nia's face when she took them, about the way Terrence wouldn't meet my eyes when she talked. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. The bills stopped coming to my house altogether. At first, I thought maybe Nia had switched everything to online payments like she said, but when I asked to see the statements, she told me she kept them organized at her house. Why can't I have my own copies? I asked Terrence. He rubbed his face, looking exhausted. Ma, she's just trying to help. You don't need to worry about all that paperwork. But I did worry, because worrying was all I could do. The power went out again in August. This time, it stayed off for 5 days. 5 days of sitting in the heat. No fan, no air conditioning, no lights after the sun went down. I called Terrence every day. I'm working on it, Ma, he kept saying. When the lights finally came back on, I cried from relief. 2 weeks later, the water shut off. I stood at my kitchen sink turning the faucet handle back and forth, listening to the pipes groan and hiss. Nothing. Not even a drip. I couldn't wash dishes, couldn't flush the toilet properly, couldn't bathe. I called Terrence. No answer. I called Nia. Voicemail. I sat on my couch feeling the shame creep over me like a slow-moving storm. What kind of woman couldn't even keep her water running? The water came back on 3 days later. Again, no explanation. That's when I started to understand. This wasn't about budgeting or protecting my money. This was about control. They had it, I didn't. My arthritis flared worse than it had in years. Some mornings I couldn't get out of bed without holding on to the nightstand and pulling myself up inch by inch. My knees locked,
My fingers felt like they were wrapped in barbed wire. I needed my medication refilled, but the pharmacy said my account was declined. I called Nia. "Miss Dorothy, you can't just spend money whenever you feel like it," she said. Her voice was cold, detached. "We're managing your expenses now. If you need something, you have to ask first." Ask first. For my own medication? With my own money? I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her she had no right, but my throat closed up and all I could manage was, "Okay." I stopped taking my pills, rationed what I had left. The pain got worse. The food ran out in September. I'd been stretching what little I had for weeks. A can of soup, a sleeve of crackers, a jar of peanut butter I'd spread so thin on stale bread you could barely taste it. But eventually there was nothing left. I opened my cabinets one morning and stared at the empty shelves. My stomach cramped. I felt dizzy. I called Terrence. "Baby, I need groceries," I said quietly. "I don't have any food." There was a pause. Then, "Ma, didn't we just give you money for groceries last month?" "That's 6 weeks ago. It's gone." Another pause. Longer this time. "You need to learn to make it last." As if I hadn't spent 30 years doing exactly that. "Terrence, please," I whispered. "I'm hungry." "I'll see what I can do." He hung up. He didn't come. I lost more weight. My clothes hung off me. My face looked hollow in the mirror. I stopped looking at myself. One afternoon, I heard Mina's voice through the phone. Terrence had her on speaker, and I don't think he realized I could hear her talking to someone else. "Girl, we practically run Dot's whole life now," she said, laughing. "If we don't approve it, she doesn't get it. It's like managing a stubborn tenant who doesn't want to follow the lease." A tenant. Not a mother-in-law. Not family. A tenant. I hung up before she could hear me crying. The internet went next. Then my cell phone plan changed without warning. I couldn't call Marilyn anymore. Couldn't hear her voice. Couldn't tell her what was happening because I didn't even fully understand it myself. All I knew was that I was disappearing, and nobody seemed to care.
I woke up on the floor. I don't remember falling. One moment I was standing at the kitchen counter trying to open a can of expired soup, and the next I was staring at the ceiling with my head pounding and my vision blurred. I don't know how long I laid there. Could have been minutes, could have been an hour. When I finally managed to sit up, my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't grip the counter to pull myself up. I had to crawl to the couch. Crawl, like an animal. That's when I knew I was dying. Not dramatically, not all at once, just slowly fading away in my own home, while the people who were supposed to love me pretended not to notice. I tried calling Terrence. My fingers fumbled with the phone. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Ma, I'm at work," he said, annoyed. "I need help," I whispered. "I can't. I fell. I need food. Please, baby, please." There was a long silence. "I'll stop by later," he said. "When?" "Later, Ma. I gotta go." He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, staring at it like it might ring again, like he might call back and say he was on his way, that he was sorry, that he'd bring groceries and sit with me and ask me why I looked so thin. But he didn't call back. 4 hours later, I got a text. "Ma, we're busy. Eat what's at home." There was nothing at home. He knew that. I told him that. I read the message 3 times, and something inside me cracked. Not my heart. That had been breaking for months. This was something deeper. My will. My hope. The part of me that kept believing things would get better. I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Then I just sat in the silence. I thought about calling Marilyn, but my phone wouldn't let me. I thought about walking to a neighbor's house, but I could barely stand. I thought about giving up. And for the first time in my life, giving up felt easier than fighting. I fell asleep on the couch that night with an empty stomach and an emptier heart. When I woke up the next morning, I decided to try one more time. I'd call Marilyn from the landline, beg her to come, tell her everything. But when I picked up the phone, there was no dial tone. They disconnected it. I sat there holding the dead receiver, and I realized the truth. I wasn't just being neglected, I was being erased. And I didn't know it then, but Marilyn already suspected something was terribly wrong. She was about to find out just how right she was.
The pounding on my door came on a Sunday. Loud, urgent. The kind of knocking that makes your heart jump even when you're expecting someone. "Ma! Mama, open up!" Marilyn's voice. I pushed myself off the couch, my legs wobbling beneath me. It took forever to reach the door. Every step felt like wading through mud. When I finally opened it, Marilyn's face went white. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Mama, what happened to you?" I tried to smile, tried to tell her I was fine, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I started crying. She caught me before I fell. Marilyn helped me back to the couch, her arm around my waist, and I could feel how shocked she was by how light I'd become, how fragile. "When's the last time you ate?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Yesterday," I lied. She stared at me. "Mama, tell me the truth." 3 days, I whispered. Her jaw clenched. I watched her eyes scan the room. The disconnected phone, the empty kitchen visible through the doorway, the stack of unopened mail on the table that I couldn't read because they'd shut off my internet and I couldn't see well enough without my glasses, which I couldn't afford to replace. "Where's Terrence?" she asked quietly. "Baby, don't... Where is he?" I looked down at my hands. "He's been busy. Him and Nia, they're managing my money now. They say I have to budget better." Marilyn stood up so fast the couch cushion bounced. "They're managing your money? What does that mean?" So I told her everything. The signed papers, the unpaid bills, the cut utilities, the hunger, the isolation, the way Nia made me ask permission for everything, the way Terrence made excuses, the way I'd become invisible in my own life. By the time I finished, Marilyn's hands were shaking. "How long?" she asked. 6 months. 6 months. She repeated it like she couldn't believe it. "Mama, why didn't you call me?" "I tried," I said, "but the phone..." "I know," her voice cracked. "I tried calling you last week. The number was disconnected. I thought maybe you'd changed it and forgot to tell me. I was going to come check on you anyway, but work kept me late and..." She stopped, pressing her palms against her eyes. "I should have come sooner. This isn't your fault, baby." "Yes, it is." She looked at me, and I saw the guilt there, the anger. "I should have known. I should have checked on you more. I should have..." She stopped herself, took a breath. "But I'm here now, and I'm going to fix this. Marilyn, please, don't fight with your brother." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Mama, this isn't a fight. This is abuse." The word hit me like a slap. Abuse? I'd never thought of it that way. Terrence was my son. Nia was his wife. They were family. Family didn't abuse you. Except they did. "I need to see Terrence," Marilyn said, standing. "Right now." "Baby, wait." "No." Her voice was firm, final. "You're coming with me. We're going to get you food, and then I'm going to have a conversation with my brother." She helped me to my feet, wrapped a sweater around my shoulders, even though it was warm outside, guided me to her car like I was made of glass. We stopped at a drive-thru first. She ordered me a sandwich, fries, a drink. When the bag came through the window, the smell almost made me cry. I ate slowly in the passenger seat while she drove. Every bite tasted like forgiveness,
like hope, like maybe I wasn't completely alone after all. "Mama," she said softly, watching me eat, "did you know Terrence bought a new SUV last month?" I stopped chewing. "What?" "A brand new SUV. Expensive one, too." "With what money?" The question came out as a whisper. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. We both knew. When we pulled up to Terrence's house 20 minutes later, I grabbed her arm. "Marilyn, please, I don't want trouble." She turned to me, and her eyes were full of tears. "Mama, you're starving. You're sick. You can't even call me. That's already trouble, and I'm going to end it." She got out of the car. I watched her walk up to the front door, watched her knock, watched Terrence open it, surprise crossing his face. I couldn't hear what she said, but I saw his expression change, saw him step back, saw Marilyn push past him into the house. And I knew in that moment that everything was about to change. I just didn't know how much.
Marilyn told me later what happened inside that house. She walked in and found Naya on the couch, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone. Takeout containers littered the coffee table. Chinese food, Thai, Italian. Enough to feed a family for a week. "Where's my mother's money?" Marilyn said. Naya looked up slowly, like Marilyn was interrupting something important. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. She's starving while you sit here eating takeout every night. Where's her money?" Terrence came in behind her, hands up like he was trying to calm a wild animal. "Marilyn, you need to relax." "Don't tell me to relax." She spun on him. "Our mother hasn't eaten in 3 days. Her power's been shut off twice. Her water was disconnected. She can't even call me, and you're telling me to relax?" "She exaggerates," Naya said, standing. "Your mother is dramatic. Always has been." I wish I'd been there to see Marilyn's face. She told me later that something cold settled over her, something calm and dangerous. "Dramatic," Marilyn repeated. "You think a 106-pound woman who can barely stand is being dramatic?" Terrence's face went pale. She's not that thin. When's the last time you actually looked at her, Terrence?" He didn't answer. Marilyn moved to the counter where the mail was stacked. Terrence tried to stop her, but she brushed him off. She started flipping through envelopes, bills, credit card statements, bank statements. "Don't touch that," Naya said sharply. Marilyn ignored her. She found what she was looking for halfway through the pile. A bank statement, addressed to Terrence and Naya, with a transaction history that made her hands start shaking. $10,000, she said quietly. Transferred from Dorothy Lanier's pension fund. All of it, in one transaction. The room went silent. "When were you going to tell her?" Marilyn asked. "That's our business," Naya said. "Your business? That's our mother's retirement." "She gave us access," Naya shot back. "That makes it legal. She signed the papers. She agreed. She agreed to let you help her, not rob her." "We didn't rob anyone." Naya's voice was ice cold. "We made a financial decision for the good of the family." "What family?" Marilyn laughed, harsh and bitter. "You're not her family. You're a parasite." Naya's face flushed red. "Get out of my house." "Gladly." Marilyn pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. The bank statement, the mail, the takeout containers, everything. "What are you doing?" Terrence asked, panic creeping into his voice. "I'm documenting evidence," Marilyn said calmly, "for the police and the lawyer and anyone else who needs to know that you stole from an elderly woman. We didn't steal." "Yes, you did." She looked at her brother, and for the first time in her life, she saw him as a stranger. "You took everything she had, everything she worked for, and you let her starve." "I didn't know it was that bad," Terrence said weakly. "Naya handles the finances. I just thought—" "You didn't think. That's the problem," Marilyn's voice cracked. "She's our mother, Terrence. She raised us alone. She worked herself to the bone for us. And this is how you repay her?" Tears streamed down Terrence's face. "I'm sorry." "Tell her that, not me." Marilyn turned to leave, but Naya stepped in front of her. "If you go to the police, you'll destroy your brother's life. He destroyed hers first. She's old. She doesn't have that many years left anyway. But Terrence?" Marilyn's hand moved so fast I don't think anyone saw it coming. She didn't hit Naya, but she wanted to. Her fist clenched at her side, shaking. "Move," Marilyn said, her voice deadly quiet. Naya moved. Marilyn walked out, got in her car, and sat there for 5 minutes trying to stop shaking. She told me later that she'd never felt rage like that, the kind that makes your vision narrow and your heart pound so hard you think it might burst. But she didn't go back inside. She drove straight to the bank, then to a lawyer's office, then to a social worker she knew from work, and finally, she came back to me. "Mama, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" I nodded. "Good. Because we're taking your life back."
The lawyer's office smelled like old books and coffee. Marilyn sat beside me, her hand over mine, while a woman named Patricia explained what we needed to do. File reports, gather evidence, revoke the power of attorney Naya and Terrence held over my accounts. "This is financial exploitation," Patricia said gently. "It's a crime. And it's more common than people think." I felt shame burn through me. How had I let this happen? "Mrs. Lanier," Patricia continued, "I need to ask you something. Do you know why they needed the money?" "Naya said it was for a car," I whispered. Patricia glanced at Marilyn. Something passed between them. "Mama," Marilyn said slowly, "that's not the whole truth." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She took a breath. "I did some digging, called some people, checked some records." She paused. "Naya has a gambling problem." The words didn't make sense at first. Gambling? Like casinos? Like poker? What? "She's been hiding it from Terrence for years. Online betting, sports, poker games. She's in debt, Mama. Deep debt, the kind that doesn't go away easily." My heart sank. "How much?" $30,000? I couldn't breathe. 30,000? And they'd taken my 10. Terrence found out about 6 months ago, right around the time they convinced you to sign those papers. He's been trying to help her pay it off, trying to protect her. By stealing from me? He didn't see it that way. He saw it as borrowing. He thought he could pay you back before you noticed. But I had noticed. I'd starved because of it. Does he know how bad it got? Does he know I couldn't eat? Marilyn's silence was answer enough. "He knew," I said quietly. "He had to know." I think he didn't want to know. I think he was so deep in trying to save Naya that he convinced himself you were fine, that it wasn't as bad as it was. I thought about my son, my quiet, obedient Terrence, the boy who never caused trouble, the man who loved his wife so much he'd let his own mother suffer for her. Part of me wanted to hate him, but mostly I just felt sad. "He's still responsible," Patricia said firmly. "Regardless of the circumstances, he participated in exploiting you. The law will hold him accountable." "I don't want him to go to jail," I said quickly. "Mama." "He's my son, Marilyn. He made a terrible choice, but he's still my son." Patricia leaned forward. "Mrs. Lanier, I understand, but you need to protect yourself. If you don't pursue this, there's nothing stopping them from doing it again." I looked down at my hands, at the arthritis that twisted my fingers, at the wedding ring I still wore, even though my husband had been gone for 18 years. "What do I do?" I whispered. Marilyn squeezed my hand. "You choose yourself, Mama. For once in your life, you choose yourself." And for the first time in 6 months, I did. "File the reports," I said. Patricia nodded. "We'll start immediately." As we left the office, I felt something strange settle over me. Not relief, exactly. Not happiness. But maybe the beginning of strength. Terrence had made his choice. He'd chosen Naya over me, chosen her debt over my dignity, chosen silence over truth. Now I had to choose too. And I chose survival, even if it meant losing my son in the process.
The investigation moved faster than I expected. Patricia filed an elder abuse report with Adult Protective Services. Marilyn provided the photos, the bank statements, the documented evidence of my living conditions. The social worker who came to interview me took one look at me and immediately escalated the case. Within a week, access to my accounts was frozen pending review. Within 2 weeks, a judge granted an emergency order revoking Terrence and Naya's financial authority over my pension. Within 3 weeks, they were being investigated for financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Naya sent me text messages, angry ones at first. "You're ruining your son's life over nothing. We were trying to help you. You'll regret this." I deleted them without responding. Then the texts changed, became desperate. "Miss Dorothy, please, we can work this out. We'll pay you back. Just drop the case. Think about Terrence. He's your son." I thought about Terrence every day. Thought about the boy he used to be, the man I'd hoped he'd become, the stranger he'd turned into. But thinking about him didn't change what he'd done. Marilyn moved me into her house the same week the investigation started. She set me up in the guest room, made sure I had 3 meals a day, took me to the doctor to get my medication refilled. I gained 4 pounds in the first week. My arthritis improved once I could take my pills regularly. The pain didn't disappear, but it became manageable, bearable. I could breathe again. One evening, about a month after everything started, someone knocked on Marilyn's door. It was Terrence. Marilyn answered, and I heard his voice from the living room. "Please, I need to see her." "She doesn't want to see you." "Marilyn, please, I'm begging you." There was a long pause. Then Marilyn came to find me. "Mama, Terrence is here. You don't have to talk to him if you don't want to." I closed my eyes, took a breath. "Let him in." He looked terrible, thinner, older. Dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in weeks. When he saw me, he started crying. Ma, I'm so sorry." I sat on the couch and waited. He knelt in front of me, hands clasped like he was praying. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it was that bad. Naya told me you were fine. She said you were just being difficult. I should have checked. I should have come to see you myself. I should have—" "You did know," I said quietly. He froze. "Maybe you didn't know all of it, but you knew some of it. You knew the power was getting shut off. You knew I was asking for food. You knew I couldn't call Marilyn. You thought it was easier not to look." I reached out and touched his face. "Baby, I love you. I always will. But you hurt me.
You let me starve. You chose her over me. I was trying to save her, he whispered. By destroying me? He had no answer for that. Terrence, I said, gently, you're a grown man. You made choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. Are you going to press charges? I don't know yet. It was the truth. But I'm not going to let you control my life anymore. That's over. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I understand. I hope you do. I pulled my hand back. I hope you figure out who you want to be, but you can't do that while I'm protecting you from your own mistakes. He stayed for a few more minutes, asked if I needed anything, asked if I was okay, asked if there was anything he could do. I told him the only thing he could do was work on himself, and then I asked him to leave. After he was gone, Marilyn sat beside me. You okay? No, I said honestly. But I will be.
2 months later, the court ruled in my favor. Patricia called to tell me the news. The investigation had found clear evidence of financial exploitation. Terrence and Nia were ordered to return $7,500, most of what they'd taken. The rest had already been spent, unrecoverable. They weren't charged criminally. The prosecutor decided it didn't meet the threshold for felony charges, and I'd made it clear I didn't want to see my son in prison. But they had consequences. Nia's gambling debts were exposed. Her employer found out. She lost her job. Terrence had to take out a loan to repay me, putting him in debt for years. Their marriage started falling apart. I heard through Marilyn that they were fighting constantly, that Nia blamed him for not handling me better, that Terrence blamed her for lying about the extent of her problem. I felt no satisfaction in their suffering, just exhaustion. The $7,500 went into a new account, one that only I had access to. Patricia helped me set up protections, safeguards, so that no one could manipulate me like that again. Living with Marilyn, I started to heal. Not just physically, though that happened too. I gained back 15 pounds, my color returned, my strength slowly came back. But emotionally, something shifted. I'd spent my whole life taking care of other people, my children, my husband before he died, my parents before they passed. I'd made myself small so others could be big. I'd swallowed my needs so others could have theirs met. And where had it gotten me? Starving in my own home? Mama, said Marilyn one morning over breakfast, I've been thinking, what if you stayed here, permanently? I looked up from my oatmeal. Baby, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. She reached across the table and took my hand. I like having you here. The kids love having Grandma around. And honestly, I should have insisted on this years ago. What about your space, your privacy? Mama, you're not invading my space. You're my family. This is where you belong. I felt tears prick my eyes. Are you sure? I'm sure. So I stayed. I sold my old house, the one with too many memories and not enough heat. Used the money to contribute to Marilyn's household, even though she protested. Bought myself new clothes that actually fit. Got new glasses so I could read again. Joined a quilting group at the senior center, something I'd always wanted to do. Small things, simple things, but they were mine. Terrence and I spoke occasionally, brief phone calls, awkward conversations where we danced around the hurt between us. He was working on his marriage, going to therapy, trying to rebuild. I wished him well. Meant it too. But I didn't invite him over, didn't offer to help him, didn't make myself small to make his life easier.
I'm 70 now. 6 years have passed since everything fell apart and came back together. People ask me sometimes if I regret filing those reports, if I regret taking my son to court, if I regret choosing myself over family harmony. The answer is no. Because here's what I learned. Love and trust are not the same thing. I love my son. I always will. But I don't trust him with my life anymore. And that's okay. That's not cruelty. That's survival. Family doesn't give you the right to hurt people. Blood doesn't excuse abuse. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is hold people accountable for their actions. I also learned that silence is a choice. For 6 months, I stayed quiet. I made excuses. I told myself it would get better. I convinced myself I was being dramatic, difficult, too demanding. And I almost died because of it. If I could go back and tell myself one thing, it would be this. Speak up. Even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. Even when you think no one will believe you. Because someone will. Someone did. Marilyn saved my life. But I had to let her. I had to be willing to tell the truth, to accept help, to stop protecting the people who were hurting me. That's the lesson. You can love your children and still set boundaries. You can honor your family and still protect yourself. You can be kind without being a doormat. And most importantly, you are never too old to choose yourself. If you're going through something like this, if someone you love is controlling your money or isolating you or making you feel small, please know this. It's not your fault. You're not being dramatic. You deserve better. And there are people who will fight for you if you let them. I'm one of the lucky ones. I got out. I got help. I got my life back. Not everyone does, but everyone deserves to.